Good afternoon, I'm Paige.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Mabel, reporting to you live from Fox 6 News.
Today we will be discussing about the Hellenistic period, which started 400 BCE and ended in 30 BCE.
Well, let's get started. King Philip of Macedonia was king who united many tribes and created a well-trained army. King Philip, who conquered most of mainland Greece, but allowed many Greek city-states to keep their freedom. So then, he was both the king of Macedon and parts of Greece, but later he was assassinated, and then his son Alexander was king.
You have probably heard of him by his nickname, Alexander the Great. Alexander was the son of King Philip, and when his father had died, he had become the king of both Macedon and Greece. Alexander was a great king that was also young when his father died. Alexander was only 21, so he had a lot of responsibilities to take on. Also, after his father died, Alexander decided to take up his father's dream of conquering Persia.
And to add on, he and his army did attack Persia. He pushed to the furthest reaches of the Persian Empire and reached western India. He wanted to go further, but his army did not. He united the eastern and western worlds under one kingdom. The mixing of the eastern and western worlds produced a new culture, which is called Hellenistic. That's where we got the Hellenistic period from. It was the joining of all these different cultures, and Alexander put them into one.
I know that might sound bad, but also Alexander did not want to destroy every local custom in his empire. Even though he wanted all the people he conquered to accept him as their ruler and to spread Greek culture, he still wanted them to have their customs. He built style cities. He established many cities in different parts of the empire. They had marketplaces, temples, and theaters. Also, settlers from Greece went to these cities and brought Greek laws, art, and literature. He wanted local soldiers and government to speak only Greek.
And that goes to show you how good of a king he was.
And that goes to show you why they call him Alexander the Great.
But we can't also forget about the beautiful Alexandria. Alexandria was located on the mouth of the Nile. It was one of the finest cities and ports. It was founded in 332 BC, and it had many Greek features. It had a marketplace, a gymnasium, a theater, courts, and a library. The library contained more than 500,000 books. It was the learning capital of the world.
Yes, the great Alexandria. And let's not forget about the other people from the Hellenistic period that are very important also, just like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
Yes, they're all very important.
Socrates was a philosopher who would not take money from teaching. He interrogated others and asked questions. He drove people crazy with all his questions. He was charged with the corruption of the youth, but that's not all. He also thought that people would behave well if they knew what good behavior was. So he challenged people to think about good, truth, and evil. He also believed that it was his mission to expose the ignorance of others and thereby lead them to the truth.
Plato was a philosopher and was also a student of Socrates. He fled Athens after Socrates' death and founded the Academy of Athens to conduct research in philosophy and math. Also, Plato was known for his book, The Republic, a record of Socrates' conversations with Athens. Plato did not favor democracy. He thought that too often in a democracy, unqualified people held important positions. He also feared that the masses of people in a democracy would make incorrect or rash decisions. In Plato's ideal society, each citizen would do the work best suited for their ability. Also, that the three classes of society would be the workers. The soldiers would ruling philosophers. He believed that both women and men should be treated equally. He also believed that there should be no individual wealth or privately owned property.
Last but not least, let's talk about Aristotle. Aristotle went to Plato's academy. Aristotle and Plato did not get along well, and they disagreed. Aristotle founded the School of Work and tutored Alexander the Great. He was all about classification of animals and observation. Aristotle also wrote a book called The Politics. In the book, he pointed out the advantages and disadvantages of various forms of government. He He believed that the most stable form of government was one in which the actions and authority of one part of the government were checked and balanced by another. For example, the actions of a strong king might be reviewed by a democratically chosen assembly.
Aristotle was also a scientist as well as a philosopher. He divided science into fields. He invented science and rules of thinking. He wrote about biology, physics, and botany, and he was one of the early scientists to believe that the earth was round.
In conclusion, the Hellenistic period was full of landmarks and things that people can't forget.
Yes, it was.
Reporting to you live from Fox 6 News, I'm Mabel.
I'm Paige.
And I'm Angela. And we hope you have a great day.
Alexander the Great's conquest has changed the character of the world so very much. Here he is now.
Hello, Aaron. I'm Alexander.
It's an honor to meet you. In what year did you become king of Macedonia?
I started to reign in 336, but many of my great accomplishments was because of my father. Philip, who reigned before me. He laid the groundwork for my accomplishments and helped me a lot in my reign.
Do you think your father was an important part in starting it?
Yes, I believe that he helped me a lot in starting my reign before he died. And he developed mining, trade, and agriculture in Macedonia. He also transformed Macedonia from a weak country into a very powerful place. He also took over Greece and put them under his rule.
Interesting. When your father was assassinated by the Pausanians, you took control and continued on in what he was trying to accomplish. One of these things he wanted to accomplish was to attack Persia. Did you plan to attack Persia?
Yes, I am planning to attack Persia, but I can't yet because I still have some things to deal with here.
Some of the tribes from Thrace rebelled after Philip's death. When you started fighting with them, two of the major city-states, Athens and Thebes, decided it would be a good time to rebel against you too. How did you feel about them rebelling?
I felt like they underestimated my power.
You then quickly descended into Thebes and demanded surrender. When the Thebians refused, Alexander's soldier burned down the city and sold its citizens into slavery as a warning to other Greeks who were considering a rebellion. This is a smart move so that you can move on without anyone else trying to rebel against you, and eventually try and conquer Persia. Why do you want to conquer them?
I would like to conquer Persia because I want to avenge the Persians, destruction of the Greek temples and other precious buildings, and to liberate the Greek cities of Asia Minor.
Good reasoning.
I would also like to conquer Persia because we are in need for money. Although my father greatly increased Macedonia's wealth, some historians believe the kingdom was on the verge of bankruptcy.
You left for Persia in the early spring of 334 BCE, borrowing enough money from the Macedonian treasury to keep his troops supplied for a month. You left Macedonia with an army of 30,000 infantry or foot soldiers and 5,000 cavalry or mounted horsemen.
We had one goal and one goal only, to conquer Persia.
Yes, and you traveled on average of 20 miles a day. You and your army reached the Hellespont in 20 days. Crossing this narrow strip of water between Europe and Asia, they landed in Persian territory in what now is today Turkey.
I also visited the ruin of Troy, and there I made a sacrifice at the grave of the Greek hero, Achilles.
You have one decisive battle against the Persian Empire at Granicus River, and Darius' commanders made a bad error. They had positioned their cavalry in front and their infantry in the back. They had the standard defensive formation of the Persian army. What did this do to help you?
That formation would keep the Persian cavalry boxed in and unable to maneuver easily. So I attacked at once before the Persians could realize their mistake and fix it.
You defeated the Persians, and here we are today.
Thank you for having me here. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you for coming, and I shall hope you come back soon. Now let's talk about Aristotle.
Hello everyone, it's your anchor. Today I'll be interviewing Aristotle. First, I will give you some important information about him. He was born in 384 BC in a Greek town near Macedonia. His father, Nicomachus, was court physician to King Anthas of Macedonia. After Aristotle's father died, Pheronismus in Atrahasis, who was married to Aristotle's older sister, Alcmene, became Aristotle's guardian until he came of age. When Aristotle turned 17, Aristotle is an extremely smart man. He went to Plato's academy for school, most important thinker who lived. He was a biologist, cosmologist and philosopher, social theorist, logician and literary theories. Scientific knowledge. He had great ideas and methods. He conquered Alexander the Great and made a school for kids. I don't want to tell you too much about him because I'm guessing you want to hear it by the man himself, Aristotle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Our audience is so excited to hear from you and to be able to hear all your great stories.
Alright then, here's my first story. So when I was younger, I would make schools for kids and I would help them garden and help them with their academics.
Wow, that is so amazing. Tell us more.
Thank you. Alright, then I studied animal life and plant life and teaches math, medicine, science, and more. I made many discoveries.
Very cool.
I wrote 100 philosophical treatises. The 30 that survive touch on an enormous range of philosophical problems, from biology and physics to morals to ethics to politics. Many, however, are thought to be lecture notes instead of complete polished treatises.
I can only imagine how many kids and parents look up to you and teachers.
Art is defined as the realization and eternal form of true idea, and is traced back to the natural love of imitation, which characterizes humans, and to the pleasure which we feel in recognizing likeness. Art, however, is not limited to mere copying. It ideals nature and completes its deficiencies. It seeks to grasp the universal type and the individual phenomena. The distinction, therefore, between poetic art and history is not that the one uses meter and the other does not.
That is a very strong feeling about art.
Well, I feel strongly about it. Oh, all right. Let's get make to more thing about my glory day and stories and beliefs. This one is a big deal. I conquered Alexander the Great, but I have to admit it. It was not easy. It was hard, but I did try.
We are running out of time, so tell us one more big thing about you.
Okay, I was very successful in my time. People would look up to me. I made schools. I conquered Alexander the Great. Those were the main highlights of my life. So thank you very much for your time. Goodbye, everyone.
You are so very welcome. I found what you had to say very interesting. Come back anytime. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Well, that was very interesting, don't you think? He is a very interesting man, don't you think? Now let's discuss Plato's and Scores with Jennifer Grouse.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we are here to talk about Plato. Plato was one of Socrates' most intelligent pupils. One thing Plato believed during his powerful, dominant reign was that the city of Atlantis really did sink underwater. He said that there once was a thriving civilization on an island called Atlantis, which had sunk beneath the ocean without trace. Does he have changed thoughts now? Plato also believed that a man's best age in his lifetime to marry was at about the age of 30 to around 35.
Yes, later we will be joined with one of the most intelligent, skilled, and famous philosophers to come out of Greece, even to this day. He was like his smart teacher, Socrates. Like Socrates, he too was extremely interested in the nature of goodness. He wanted the best for all people. Plato suggested city-states in which the form of government was like no other of that time. He wanted polis or city-states to be run by philosopher kings, because he believed that the philosophers of Greece were the smartest, most intelligent people who know what to do and how to greatly benefit their city-states. They knew better than all what goodness was. One reason this great man is famous is because of his theory of ideals.
Oh yes, the theory of ideals. Plato was a very smart man. He believed and created a theory that we still use today, even after his reign. He said that an ideal version of each thing existed in a world of ideals. A real thing, such as a chair, a dog, or a human, never be as good as the ideal version, but humans could try to get nearer to the ideals throughout philosophy. He set out his ideas for an ideal state in the Republic and the laws, and founded a school near Athens called the Academy. One of the school's pupils was Aristotle. Plato's ideals spread around the world and are still important today. I bet in the future these ideals will still be relevant. Let's go over to our new interviewer to talk about the latest with Plato and his life after Rome. Okay, over to you.
Thanks, guys. So, Plato, I hear that you are coming out with a new book in a few weeks. Tell us about that. What is it about? Who are we going to meet?
Yes, the rumors are true. I will be coming out with a new book shortly. Very shortly. I cannot spill too many details. But the book will be called The Apology. I wanted to go in depth and write about some of Socrates' enemies. I wanted to answer back to them. The apology is my form of speech answering back to the enemies of Socrates about his charges. His charges against corrupting the young, and by not believing in the gods in whom the city believes. That is not right. Socrates should have a voice, not only from himself, but others too.
Thank you, Plato. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, this is some breaking news here, folks. Plato has recently collapsed to the ground and died. The reason? Well, natural causes. Maybe a heart attack. Well, Plato, you will be greatly and dearly missed. What a short life, and dying at the age of only 87. You have heard it here first, people. Thank you, Plato, for all you have done and contributed to Greece as one of our most intelligent philosophers. Now, for one of our other great people of Greece, Socrates.
Thanks, guys. We are here today to talk about our beloved Socrates. Socrates was a man of many questions, and he dared to question everything and everyone. Socrates had a new philosophy on arete, or goodness. He also believed that being good made people happy. He held sessions in which he questioned other people's ideas of what goodness really was. Socrates put in jail for his actions. Looking back, the judges of the court still thought that this was a fair ruling. He was locked up because many people believed that he was a traitor. Socrates was charged for religious terms. He was also charged for impiety, or refusing to believe on the gods, and corrupting the young. On the other hand, some say that without him, history would be profoundly different.
Adding on to what you said, he upset politicians with all of his questions, and he was executed. His teachings made him unpopular with politicians and will soon be sentenced to death by poison. Also, he didn't write any books, but he taught by word of mouth. Socrates was mostly famous for having an ugly face but a magnetic personality. Socrates was very physically unattractive. His appearance was not one of the best, and it was surprising that he was not left on a hill when he was a child. So much about his face is so offset. I am stunned that as a baby, he was not thought to have some deformities. His face is hard to describe, but he does have a snub nose. Also, he has very wide eyes. To add to that, he went out unwashed and barefoot. He had very unkempt hair. Let's go over to Athens to talk with Socrates before his death.
Thanks, guys. So, Socrates, tell us about some of your interests. Where that you decided to follow that landed you here in jail.
Well, you know, as does everyone else, that I'm deeply interested in the limits of human knowledge. I want to find the capacity, the maximum the human brain and body can endure. I want to know everything I hope that I am going to be in the future, an inspiration to others, and especially other philosophers. I want my ideas to pass on by my pupils, and for all to see what goodness really is. I hope to be viewed by many as the founding figure of Western philosophy. I do realize I am the best known as a questioner in both ways and bad ways. In good ways and both good and bad ways. I hope that I have lasting impact on the world for all of its eternity. Thank you, and back to the studio.
Thanks, Socrates, once again for joining us today before you were injected with the lethal syrup and are left to die. Now, as we said before, he will change the world forever. Thank you to Socrates for all that you have done. We will know of your life through your writings and your pupils. Socrates, you are a great man, and we hope that forever your name will live on after you. This unattractive man came to Athens and gave us all of the great interventions in the category of human development. We want to thank this snub-nosed, unbathed, wide-eyed man who helped us grow Greece's ideals.